4 years ago, I decided I wanted to build a four-wheel drive, twin-turbo, extended cab drag truck, and I started at the junkyard with a bare frame. And today, we're gonna take it for its very first test drive.
I'm lost for words right now.
The build started with the idea of converting my two-wheel drive, single-turbo, big block Silverado over to four-wheel drive, but the project quickly evolved into a completely new truck built entirely out of parts from the junkyard. Over the last few months, I've been working around the clock to get the final details finished up, and we're so close to driving this thing. All we have left are the transfer case, drive shaft, brake lines, and a few details out back. But before we were able to hit the road, we found a few unexpected issues we'll have to solve. No reverse. That's not something I expected to find. The most important part about having a four-wheel drive drag truck is having a four-wheel drive system that actually works. And right now, we don't have that. So underneath here, we have a NP263 HD transfer case. So it's a very heavy-duty transfer case, but that one, I think the chain's busted or something like that. I haven't taken the time yet to open it up to see what's inside. And because I've been so busy with other stuff on this truck, I just figured, what the heck, let's save a little bit of time, spend a little bit of money, and we got one of these bad boys right here. Now, I've kind of nicknamed this truck the scrapyard drag truck because up until this point, it has been truly and honestly built 99% with junkyard parts. The rear differential, yeah, that came from a diff shop. Got torque differentials, by the way. Let me think, that's kind of it. The engine, straight out of the junkyard. Transmission, straight out of the junkyard. Now the transfer case is a freshie, but to make our goal, or our eventual goal of an 8-second quarter mile, we're gonna have to replace all that stuff. Now, the transfer case, that should last no problem. Those are very strong. The rear diff, we've already got that prepared, but engine and transmission, yes, those will have to be redone at some point. Now I am just draining it out now because I think it had a bunch of water in there, and I just put some cheap fluid in when I started it up before to kind of circulate it through. So to not make a mess when we separate the transfer case, and because it has to be done anyway, we're draining the fluid. Just got to get this shift cable out of the way. When I originally started to build this truck, I was planning on using a floor shift transfer case, but because I want to make this like a really street truck, I want to have a full console. So that's really the main reason why we went with the electric shift 263. Eat your Wheaties. Does anyone eat Wheaties anymore? I don't recall if I've mentioned this or not yet, but the front drive shaft is actually from a Duramax truck. The length worked out just about perfect. It has a small diameter, but it has a really thick wall, so super strong. Didn't even have to change the front U-joint or anything. One more important thing to have on the truck are a functioning set of brakes. So I am installing the hard lines on the axle. This is a custom bent set. I did buy a pre-bent set, but with the shock mounts and anti-roll bar mounts and all the other changes that we've made to this truck and axle and suspension, of course we had to build our own. Spent a bunch of time yesterday bending the lines, welding some tabs on the axle to hold everything exactly where it needs to go in cushion clamps. So get them on, and then we'll bleed the brakes. Down. down, up. So the biggest question I've had throughout this whole four-wheel drive process is, will this actually work? It's a different TCCM from a different truck. I don't know if they're VIN locked. I kind of looked into getting that one programmed, kind of came up empty, so this might work and we might have functioning four-wheel drive, or I don't know, maybe it'll throw the truck into theft protection mode and maybe I can't start it at all. Let's find out. So we did pull a bunch of wiring diagrams and it looks like the pinout between the two modules should be the same. So hopefully with the new buttons, the new module, and the new transfer case harness all from a HD truck, hopefully four-wheel drive works. Do we have a four-wheel drive drag truck? Or do we have a two-wheel drive truck with a bunch of extra parts and a few lights on the dash? Let's find out. So before it used to say service four-wheel drive. Right now, it says too high. I think these all used to be lit up before. Let's try it. Let's take a listen. I think we have four-wheel drive. Technically, right now, I think it's front-wheel drive, but if we start the truck up and if we bled the brakes right, we should be able to just at least roll it under its own power, which is, weirdly enough, the last way that this truck drove, the blue truck, with front-wheel drive only, because when I bought it, it was in a wreck and the rear axle got kind of wiped out, so there was no rear drive shaft. So this is a full circle moment. No reverse. That's not something I expected to find. So I'm really excited right now, but I'm also really frustrated. It's nice that the four-wheel drive conversion actually works. We don't have to do anything else. The TCCM swap, it just plugged right in, no anti-theft, no warning lights, just four-wheel drive works like it should. So that's awesome, but reverse. We have no reverse gear, and that's pretty important. I do realize that at some point, we're gonna have to get this 4L80 completely rebuilt to work with the power level that we are planning. We're gonna need a lot of really nice parts in there at some point. I just didn't want to have to do that right now. I was hoping straight out of the junkyard it would work. But there's a few quick fixes we might be able to do to get it at least on the road for now and buy us a little bit more time. I did think about swapping in this 4L80. It's obviously a two-wheel drive one. And some of these you can actually modify the rear output shaft and put a plug in back here and make it work with a four-wheel drive. But this particular output shaft is only splined to about here, so it won't work for that. Maybe there's some good parts in here we can use if we need to pull that one apart, but the quick fix, maybe we can just add a little bit of length to a servo pin, because I believe the symptom that we are experiencing has to do with the rear band, which is way back here in the transmission. So maybe we can modify the servo. Maybe the band is broken. I don't know. I did hear a pop at one point when we first put this transmission in, and I just kind of shifted it through the gears with no drive shafts in place. I heard a weird pop. So I'm afraid there might be a damaged hard part, but we'll first pull the pan, drain the fluid, and see what we can find. Guess there's a lot more water in there than I thought. All right, so I pulled the other transmission apart because I needed to steal this part to make a tool. This is a servo cover. The tool is simple. I just welded a nut, drilled a hole, and then drilled a second hole for access. This is going to allow us to measure how far this pin here gets pushed down. We're looking for, oh gosh, I believe it's 3/16 of an inch-ish, 0.185. I'm just going to do it here to kind of give it a run through, and then I'll try it on the truck for real, but this will be a proof of concept for my tool. So that one is like 190. I think 0.185 is the max or recommended. So let's check the one in the truck, because this one is not what was giving us our symptom. There's 50 thousandths. There's 100 thousandths. There's 150. There's 200, 250, 300, 322, 322,000. So what that tells me is the band is completely shot. The correct fix would be to just rebuild the transmission, but the temporary fix that'll get us out of a jam, I think, is we'll lengthen this pin a little bit until we get that 185-ish of free play that we want, and send it. All right, we were targeting 3.505. We have 3.504. No, it's like 3, but close enough. All right, round number 2. $100. Just under 180. So that should be in the ballpark. I did look up some specs. Some of them call like 1/8 of an inch, which is 120 thousandths. But I think this is good, because again, this is temporary. All right, transmission's back together, message cleaned up, fluid is topped off, and our temporary fix hopefully worked. So this is the moment of truth. Again. Still drives forward. Oh, that's a good thing. get going in the forward, but we'll double check the fluid level. And once we get a proper drive line in it, we can actually put some miles on and see if it shifts. Let's try that again. I think we're good. Great success. Now, the transmission repair was a bit of an unexpected detour, and I know we're still going to have to rebuild it at some point. I just didn't want to dive into that little side quest right at the moment. But I'm happy the temporary repair at least worked now. I mean, in the shop, we'll see if it actually holds up for maybe 100 or 200 miles of driving. I have a pretty good feeling about it, but we need to move on to our first test drive. That doesn't really count. We want to get this thing on the road. So the drive shaft is almost done. The bed is really the big thing. The bed needs to go back on the truck, number one, so I can have my shop space back. But number two, so it looks like a truck again. First, though, there are two last tasks. No, that's a weird plural. Anyway, two last things that we have to do. Number one, vent for the rear diff. Number two, vent for the tank. And once those two things are done, I can feel good about putting the bed back on the truck for the foreseeable future. The differential vent, that's pretty easy. We're just going to run a hose from that guy there up to here. I'm going to use just the OEM like cap vent thing that goes on the end of a tube, or a hose rather. The fuel tank vent, though, we're going to get a little bit fancier with because I have a couple of requirements. Number one, we need a rollover valve, which I think technically there is one in that factory fuel hanger, but we're gonna do something a little bit different. And number two, we need a way so I don't have to smell gasoline fumes, because I hate it when you have like a fuel cell and just an open vent and it just goes and smells everywhere. So I went to Summit Racing, picked up a couple of goodies that are going to solve all of my problems. This is a rollover check valve / fuel tank vent. There's a little, I don't know what's in there, a check ball and some other goodies. So if, heaven forbid, the truck ever were to roll over, fuel cannot escape, but with it installed properly, it allows the tank to breathe. We have this, which is a kind of universal charcoal canister, just has a 5/16 barb on there, a couple of mounting spots, and that'll stop any of the fumes from coming out, but still, again, let it breathe. And this is actually another rollover valve, but I'm probably going to modify this one and take out the check ball, just because you see that little screen in there. I kind of like that because it's basically a filter. So that's more or less how it's going to go. Tank to charcoal canister to breather, filter, whatever we want to call that. Now, for this to work properly, it really needs to be mounted above the level of the fuel tank. So even when it's sloshing around, when you're accelerating or braking, no liquid comes up into that canister. Now, obviously the fuel tank or cell is flush with the top of the frame, so we don't have a lot of choices there. But since this bed is luckily tipped up on its end, we're going to take advantage of this open cavity right there. I'll just pop a small hole so the hose can run through. We'll build some brackets and we'll mount the vapor canister kind of in that cavity between the inside and outside rails of the bed. This will be retained so it still will be protected from the weather and splashing and things like that. And it gives me an opportunity to do some more welding, which I love welding. So let's get to it. So the one thing that really gives me, almost tripped, a good dopamine hit is crossing something off of a to-do list. So this is an easy item. So that's where we'll start. Probably do something like that. Now, I don't want to brag, but I have amassed quite the collection of cushion clamps. They are my absolute favorite method of mounting stuff. We're getting down to the last few things. So this bracket's going to be kind of a lot simpler than I thought, and I'm actually really pleased with how it's going to turn out. Basically, we're going to have a couple of threaded inserts in this flat piece of metal that's going to hold the charcoal canister to the plate. And then on the other side, this is going to bolt to the bed. There's a little molded bump out, so it's going to like fit perfectly. And yeah, so this will come together pretty quick. Hello. Man, you guys are the best. I'll be right down. Thanks. Bye. And a quick detour because our drive shaft is done. And this thing is a monster. 5-inch OD, 1/8-inch wall tube. This thing is just beefy. 1350 joints. And then we have a Sonax billet slip yoke up here. So that ought to hold more than enough power for what we're doing. Never ever have to worry about it again. It's a little bit pricey, but it's done. So let's throw it on real quick. Now I did modify that cross member up there and this one to allow this drive shaft to fit, hopefully, at full compression. The truck's at ride height now. And let's see. Okay, that's where it hits the front drive shaft, almost hits the middle cross member, almost hits the rear. And just for curiosity's sake, that's like 7 inches lower than the truck is right now, which it should never ever get that low. In other words, measure twice, cut once worked. And just for a fun comparison here, my Ford F-150 bump stops are set at about 5 inches of compression. Why do I have F-150 bump stops on a Silverado? I don't know. They're from the junkyard, and they fit and work actually really good. So, drive shaft is home. Now, one thing that I refuse to do is have stuff mounted in the bed. I know a lot of people put like a fuel cell in the bed or a battery box. I can't stand that. Nothing wrong with it. And I don't even love that I'm doing this, but this is at least acceptable because all that you're gonna see inside the bed are 4 bolt heads. That's it. The charcoal canisters sit on the other side of this. I mean, I already have a hole in the bed for the fuel filler neck. So we'll let this slide, but mark my words, I am not gonna be mounting anything inside the bed. Well, I pulled the bed off of the truck a couple of months ago, I think, and right now it is ready to go back on. We have the charcoal canister hidden away nicely behind the OEM splash shield. Should be nice and protected. Hoses routed in cushion clamps so it won't rub or abrade or anything like that. Make the final connection once we get the bed on the truck, just to the vent in the fuel tank. Rear of the frame also done and ready to go, which I'll hate to have this all covered up because we put a lot of work into this. I mean, even way back from when we're doing the C-notch and modifying the cross members, because like this cross member used to be further back. That one used to have a big kink in it. So we cut those out, put straight ones in. We replaced this one with our custom Humpty Doo to clear the big drive shaft, fuel tank in the back. So we're ready to cover this up and go on our first test drive. And an alignment. We need to do that first. But let's get the bed on the truck. There we go. Close enough. You know, just seeing this thing outside for the quick second while I drove it from one bay to the next, it's got me pumped. I think this is the coolest truck that I've ever built. It's probably the worst looking one, but guys, we made this entirely from junkyard parts, and we just drove it 10 feet for the first time ever. And I just finished up the alignment, so we are now ready to drive it for real. I am so pumped. Let's do it. Power mirrors even work. I don't think I've ever had a old Chevy that they do. I've never actually owned an 03 to 07 GMT 800. All the ones I've ever had were the 99 to 02s. And they're kind of the same truck, but there's a lot of little differences, like just the feel of the blinker switch. It's totally different. But we're driving. We're driving in a truck we built entirely out of junkyard parts. This is cool. This is the wildest thing, guys. I'm lost for words right now because I'm just like thinking of all the things that we've put together on this. I'm watching transmission stuff. I'm trying to remember if there's any bolts, for example, that we forgot to connect or something like that. We've done so much to this. Better stop for gas, the light's on. I don't even know what to say. It's just so cool that this thing is moving under its own power. This truck, as a whole, has never existed. It's never driven before. And we're driving it. I do have to keep an eye on the transmission temperature because there's no cooler at all. We just have the two lines looped, and I'm trying to do that just to flush out all that little bit of watery fluid that's left in there. But right now it's only 140 degrees, so I guess we'll just do some short drives at a time. This is so cool. Like, I know from the outside, this just looks like the junkiest old beat up truck. And I guess it kind of is, but this makes me so happy. Notice it's not locking up the torque converter. I'll have to check out those settings and see what's going on. Now the crazy thing is, this is still basically a stock tune. You know, not tune. I mean, I modified it for the bigger engine for the segment swap for the transmission and flex fuel and all that good stuff. But I haven't touched the VE table or the spark table from the stock 5.3, and it actually is like 8 or 9% fuel trims and is running pretty dang good. So I feel like I could drive this thing in California right now, which is so cool. Oh, I needed this. You have no idea how much I needed this. After all that, the trans fluid temp only got to 180. Not bad. Total of 12.5 miles on our brand new junkyard truck. All right. All right, it's the next day, next drive, and so far so good. I had a couple of bugs to work out, and this is the whole reason why I wanted to get this truck up and running naturally aspirated before we messed around with turbocharging. Just getting the bugs worked out. Torque converter clutch, for example. Yesterday, couldn't get it to lock up for the life of me. All the lock and unlock settings were correct, so I had to do a bunch of research, and the cam that's in here, it throws some false misfire data. And I didn't know this because I've never messed around with a mass air equipped LS, but if it throws a misfire code, it won't lock up the converter. So we adjusted the sensitivity of the misfire monitoring, and now we have lockup. So just little stuff like that. It's a lot easier to work out now. And then once we know we have all the little bugs worked out, well, then we can just add the power and be good to go. You know, build the transmission, but everything is sorted out, or it will be. So still get a few things. Guys, again, a junkyard truck. We put this together from a million different vehicles, and it runs and it drives, and I've never been happier. Well, I mean, I have, but vehicularly, this is a pretty good moment. I could not be happier right now. This project has technically been in the works for just about 4 years. I first got the idea to build a 4-wheel drive drag truck back at LS Fest West 2022 when we had the COPO truck done and we had a blast with it. And that's where this whole project started. At the time, this was supposed to be a variation of the ugly truck. It was never supposed to be its own build, but project snowball. And here we are nearly 4 years later with a 6.2 LS instead of an 8.1 big block. We're 4-wheel drive with a cat eye front end. So totally different from where we initially started. And it's been a long project, but I am so very happy right now. It's like uglier than the ugly truck. So this is what we should have called the true ugly truck, but this seriously makes me so happy that it's come together. We have our engine running. Yeah, we got a lot of bugs to work out, but huge milestone to take it for its very first drive. So I've been kind of making lists. You guys know I love doing that. The old lists on the windshield were pretty much done, and we kind of started another one. So still a lot of little bugs to work out, but again, I've said it again and again, I'm so very happy that this truck moves, it drives, it runs. Next major milestones or tasks, I guess, that I have to do, I got to build an exhaust, number one. I need to get the transmission cooler lines built. And then other than that, we're just going to start to slowly put a little bit of miles on it, make sure all those little items are checked off the list. And as soon as that's done, we're going straight to turbos. I have the turbos already. I have the manifolds. I have wastegates, blow-off valves, no intercooler yet. So of course we have like a million other little things to do for that phase of the project. But next season is coming up quick. I want to go racing with this truck, so I have a lot of work to do. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Come back soon for the ugliest junkyard build you've probably ever seen.